Hi and welcome to today's video. We will be covering how to set up the LAMP stack as well as showcasing a web page that runs a Fishmarket using PHP and MySQL. At first though, I'd like to mention my web page, jimmyjohnson84.me, which covers various other technical projects. The LAMP stack is basically what makes the internet run as we know it today. It stands for Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP/Python/Perl. This is a configuration of different software that runs on a server somewhere that enable us to build a front end, in our case a web page, that can do some interesting things. Linux is the OS that we will be running, Apache the web server, MySQL is the database we will be using, and PHP, the program language we will be using to enable our web page to present the data we are storing in the database. I will start off by showing how to install and run all the software that is part of the LAMP stack under Linux in DigitalOcean. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to want to do is create a droplet on DigitalOcean where we can run the LAMP setup. Of course, you need an account with DigitalOcean to do this, but that is quite trivial to set up. All right, then you're probably going to need one of these projects here. I think it's just a container for the resources that you have. So once you set that up, you want to create a droplet. So let's do that. And we're going to go with Ubuntu. We're going to go with a shared CPU. Doesn't really matter. Let's take the cheapest thing that they have here. Choose a location that's closest to me. And give it a password. And that's it. Create droplets. Okay. So now it's created, but let's give it a little bit of time to start. You can copy the IP here. And let's just see if it is up and running. Give it a couple of more seconds. Okay. All right, so we got a droplet that's up and running. Now we can proceed with installing all the software that we need. All right, so the next thing we're going to want to do is to install the Apache web server on our little droplet here. So I'm just going to have written down the steps here. So first we wanted to make sure that we update the apt. So that all goes fine. All right, and then all we have to do is install the Apache server. All right, cool. That should be it. Now let's see if we get some stuff here. We should have a www here. So this is where, inside here is where our web page is going to live. So we get a example web page when we install Apache. That's already here for us, and it's in this index.html, so we can just check it out and see if it's working. So over here we'll see that, yeah, it works. All right, so that's it for the Apache installation. So now that we got Apache installed, what we want to do is install MySQL to run the database on. So I'm kind of following the instructions from this side here. I'm going to put it in the video description later on, so you can have a look yourself. Okay, let's get into it. The first thing we want to do is just install the MySQL server on our machine. So we'll go ahead and do that. All right, great. So now it's installed. We're going to want to start the MySQL server. So go ahead and do that. Right, great. So now it should be up and running. So what we want to do is set the password for the root user. Start with that. Yep. So in this case, it's going to be Donald Duck. But I would suggest you pick something else. Okay, great. So now we have a password for the MySQL. Now what we're going to do is want to set up some databases, or one database where we are going to keep our orders for our Fishmarket and create a user that can interact with that database. Well, we'll start with creating the database here. So we will log in first. And then we will create a database that's called order book. And yeah, we're going to want to select that database. Okay, we'll just do like this. So you can use the -big D option when you're logging in as well. That will select that database for us. Oh yeah, type in the wrong password here. Alright, so we're going to create the orders table here. So it's going to have an ID, type, if it's a buy or a sell order, the quantity and the price. Alright, so now we should be able to see that. Okay. No, not select show tables. Alright, so now we have one table here, the orders. I'm going to create another one that's called execute orders. I'll explain that more later on. Yeah. Let's just do it for now. Alright, great. So now we have these tables that we need. Now we're going to go ahead and create a user for this web page so that we can interact with the database. And we want to keep that separated from the root user, because we just want the user that is interacting from the web page doesn't need to have access to everything. He just needs to have access to the this order table that we have created. So yeah, let's do that. Alright, so we'll create a user called order user, and we'll give him the password Miss Daisy. And then we will give that user full access to all the tables, everything that's on the database order book. Alright, so now we should be able to try and use that user. So order user So yeah, Miss Daisy. Perfect. So now there we got that user set up as well. We are done. All right, so now we're going to continue and install PHP so we can handle dynamic content on our web page, handle our orders, adding an order and showing the different orders that we have. So again, I got a little tutorial here that I'm sort of following, so I'll put that too in the description. So the first thing that we want to do is install PHP, PHP MySQL, and lib Apache 2 mod PHP. So these are all the things that are needed in order for PHP to talk to the MySQL database and for it to work together with the Apache web server, as well as the actual PHP package itself. So let's go ahead and install those things. Okay, cool. Now let's check that it has been installed properly. So yeah, seems good. Alright, so now I guess we would like to try it out and see if we can do something with it. The first thing we might want to do is we'll add something to the database here. Alright, perfect. So now what we want to do is add an order that we can query later on through the web page. So insert into orders, and then we're going to list all the things that we need to put in there: ID, type, quantity, and price. So we're going to put in ID 0, type 0, quantity 10, sure, and 100 as the price here. Oh, sorry. Gotta have values there. Perfect. Okay, so see that is in there. All right, we got that row there. Now we want to check if we can make our web page display this. Then, so create a little test page here. So what we do here is we log in using the server name, the username, password, and the database that we want to connect to. We connect, and then we ask a query here where we want ID and price from orders where ID is 0, and then we simply put them all out here on the web page, and I'll go into detail explaining more how this works later on. But for now, it's just something so we can test that both PHP work, it works together with the Apache server, and that we're able to reach the MySQL database here. So it's just a little test here. All right, so if we try that out here, you can see, voila, hooray, we got that price 100, which is what we put in. Great, then we're done. Now that we are done with the configuration of the server side, let's talk a little bit about the use case we are trying to solve. In my case, I want to start off with a very simple example. Just a market where you can buy and sell one item. For me, I imagine this being the one-eyed fish from my game Pop-Up, but it could really be anything. So first, what we need to do is to establish what the people using the market can do. So they can post that they want to buy a certain amount of fish for a maximum price, or they can post that they want to sell a certain amount of fish for a minimum price. We will impose a rule for our market. All the orders to buy or sell must be fully filled. In a financial market, this is usually called an all or none order. This will make it a bit more interesting for us when we later dive into the backend component that will be responsible for matching buy and sell orders. Our web page will be the front end that both the fishermen looking to sell their fish and the local town folks who want to eat some tasty fish will be using. We will be using HTML and PHP as it is pretty simple, and I really wanted to focus more on building the backend. The bread and butter of our web page is the HTML form. HTML forms lets you, design forms. You can have checkboxes, radio buttons and input fields. It's perfect for our Fishmarket. So once the user has filled in all the data, it will be transferred to our web server, the Apache, via an HTTP post request. This happens when the user clicks on the submit button on the web page. We need to actually process the data as well once it has reached our web server, which is where the PHP code comes in. The buy and sell order should be stored in a database so we can later on find matches of buy and sell orders. The web page will also need to be able to display all the buy and sell orders that are present to the fishermen and people looking to buy fish. We use PHP for this as well, as it can talk to our database and read the buy and sell orders for us. Now that we have an idea of how to build the front end, let's take a look at how to set up our database. We now know the type of data we will be working with, so let's carve out the tables in our database. We simply need one table, orders. It needs to be able to store what type of order it is, the quantity and the price. We will also store a unique ID for the orders so we can easily find which order to delete later on when we are matching buy and sell orders. So the first column is the ID. This is the primary key of the table. Each table needs to have a primary key. It's a unique identifier for each record in the table. The second column tells us if it's a buy or sell order. Third stores the quantity, and fourth the price. With that in place, we can now look at how our PHP script will look like. Let's have a look at how to write the following web form using PHP. The first chunk of code starts at line 132. PHP keeps an array of data that gets manipulated by the web server. When you perform a post, the request method will get its value set to post. Whereas if you are just requesting to view this page, the variable will usually be set to get. So by looking at this variable, we can tell that someone did a post request. In other words, they fill out the form and hit the submit button. What happens first is that we perform what is referred to as input validation. This is a simple way of sanitizing the input, so a hacker can't do things that weren't intended. Web security is a whole topic of itself, which I will not be covering in this video. The code inside the if statement at line 132 is only run once the user has pressed the submit button. This defines an HTML form that will use the HTTP protocol's post method. That is, when we hit the submit, we will perform a post request. The content of the form data is sent to the script in the action tag. In this case, it is to the current page. You could list a separate PHP file here if you like that as well. After that, we have three separate input fields. Let's look at them. The first one is listed on line 160 and is a drop-down box with two options, buy and sell. The second is listed on line 166, the quantity field, and the third one on line 169, the price. You can see that we fetched the values from the post request from these fields in the first if statement back on line 132. The form data is stored in the post dictionary, which we access by the same key as the different web forms names key. The two other forms to handle execution of matching buy and sell order, as well as method of clearing the orders that we have stored, is just more of the same. So I won't go into it here. You can have a look at it in the repo yourself. Let's instead look at the part that takes care of inserting the order entered in the web form. This is the part that makes it pretty clear that we are using PHP as a server-side script. We are using PHP to insert something into our database. Line 198 to 201 lists where the database resides, the local host, as well as the credentials. After that, we check if there is data in all three fields related to order entry on line 203. Then we proceed by making a connection to the MySQL database that we are running on line 206. On line 214 and 215, we figure out the next ID number for our new order. Line 270 through 222 simply process the result from the SQL query. We insert our new order using the query on line 233. If it all went well, we put an order inserted message beneath the buy and sell order table. Fairly straightforward stuff once you just break it down. There are two other forms, one to trigger the execution of matching buy and sell order, as well as a function to clear the table. These are just more of the same stuff. To trigger the matching of orders, we have a separate table execute where we simply set a boolean to true. The clearing of orders simply triggers a SQL delete call to the orders table. You can check this out yourself in the repo. So what we are left with is displaying the tables of buy and sell orders. Let's have a look at that. Most of the code should be familiar by now. Make a connection, send an SQL query. In this case, we are querying for data to post on the web page rather than the other way around. Our SQL query on line 328 makes a select call where we group together buy orders that have the same price but different quantities into one row. In other words, we will get one row per price we put in here. Once we got the buy orders, all we need is a loop which we can see on line 334. Where we output HTML table data to the web page. The sell order table is the exact same code, with the only difference that we ask for orders of type 1. And voila! We got the front end of our Fishmarket ready. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. The Fishmarket is live at jimmyjohnson84.me/orderbook.php. So you can go and try it out yourself. The repo with all the code is listed in the video description, as well as on my webpage if you want to have a look at it. My next video will cover the C++ order matching section. This backend piece uses the MySQL xdev API to interact with the database, as well as a heuristic approach to solving a variant of the knapsack problem. Hope to see you for the next one, and thanks for watching this video. If you're curious to check out the C++ order matching part, it is in the repo already.